So the despicable UNESCO at the United Nations have reared their ugly heads once again to say something distinctly anti-Israel, though in essence really anti-Semitic. This time they voted in favor of a motion that the Temple Mount and the Western Wall has nothing to do with Jews and Israelis. Here's a reality check. The Muslim claim to Jerusalem is based on what is written in the Quran, which although Jerusalem isn't mentioned even once, nevertheless talks of a furthest mosque. Glory be unto Allah who did take his servant for a journey of night from the sacred mosque to the furthest mosque. And it is suggested, based on this verse, that Muhammad went onto the Temple Mount on his horse and ascended heavenward. But is there any foundation to the Muslim argument that this furthest mosque refers to what is today called the Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem? The answer is absolutely none whatsoever. In the days of Muhammad, who died in 632 CE, Jerusalem was a Christian city within the Byzantine Empire. Jerusalem was captured by Caliph Umar only in 638, 6 years after Muhammad's death. Throughout all of this time, there were only churches in Jerusalem, and a church stood on the Temple Mount, called the Church of St. Mary, built in the Byzantine architectural style. The Aqsa Mosque was built 20 years after the Dome of the Rock, which was built in roughly 691, 692 by Caliph Abd el-Malik. In or around 711, or about 80 years after Muhammad died, Malik's son Abd el-Wad, who ruled from 705 to 715, reconstructed the Christian Church of St. Mary and converted it into a mosque. He left the structure as it was, adding as he did what we've all come now to know as the onion-like dome on top of the building to make it look like a mosque. And he then named it Al-Aqsa so it would sound like the one mentioned in the Quran. Muhammad could never have had this mosque in mind when he compiled the Quran, since it didn't exist for another 3 generations after his death. Rather, as many scholars long ago established, it's logical that Muhammad intended the mosque in Mecca as the sacred mosque and the mosque in Medina as the furthest mosque. King David, as it is known, first made Hebron his capital, and then after 7 years, he made Jerusalem his capital, which will have included the Temple Mount. Though he was offered this site at the time as a gift, he chose to pay for it in order to establish a lasting and permanent ownership. And on the basis of all this, Abd al-Malik, who made the mosque permanent, also acknowledged the Jewish claim to the site. And so, before converting it into a mosque, he asked of the Jews if they had any use for it, or intended for it to be the place of their third temple. And they responded, it's not yet time for any third temple just then, at which point he built the mosque with the understanding that when the time came, it would be given back to the Jews. So to argue, as they do, that the Temple Mount was never a Jewish site is not just factually incorrect and historically flawed, it goes against basic Muslim teachings as well. Insist, if you will, that the Western Wall and the Temple Mount has nothing to do with Jews, but then again, the Pope isn't Catholic, the Easter Bunny is real, and Jesus was a nice Jewish boy. Well, never mind the last point, but you know what I mean. Stay happy, be inspired.